this African masculinity thing still. I took the car and went away to a park. And I started to weep there like a baby. And I wept really well, and I thought, now I'm fine. I can come back home as a pathfinder with my shoulders strengthened. And so I came back home. But it was hard. That was the entry to our desert. That was the beginning of our desert experience. Where do I point this? Okay. I wanted to show you the desert, but it's okay. All right. You can see me there. I don't know. Don't remember someone taking that picture, but it just showed the process. That's when it started. So that was the desert experience that we went through together. And I'm going to share a bit about it. What happened around that time, our church was running what then called a Revive by His Word, where the whole global church is reading through Scripture in the Bible in the spirit of prophecy. And I was doing that too. And so I picked up this from the Patriarchs and Prophets. It says, the history of the wilderness life of Israel was chronicled for the benefit of them and all of that, but you can read it for yourself. God would have His people in these days review with a humble heart and teachable spirit the trials through which the ancient Israel went. So, and when that statement, I read that statement, it struck a chord to me because I really felt like I was in a desert. And I started reading up on desert experience. I'm talking about physical desert experience and otherwise. Now, in the Middle East, where all these things happened, their deserts are not like the Namibian deserts. It's a rocky area. Very, very dangerous. No trees. It's difficult to walk. Cold at night. Hot during the day. If you walk there, you might die from thirst. But the worst part of that, they have what is called flash floods that happen out of nowhere. Because what would happen is that a river would burst, or water would burst about, 100 kilometers away. And then when it does happen, it's still raining. But by the time it gets here, it's 3 days later, it's hot, and you're feeling that everything. And all of a sudden, it just pops up. And a lot of people die, a lot of animals die out of that. And so that's the kind of Middle East desert experience that I learned about. But I want to make parallels between that and my personal experience. And therefore, it says here, in the desert, He found him. In a barren and howling wasteland, He shielded him and cared for him, and He guarded him as an apple of His eye. This is how I felt. I won't bore you with all the kind of details, all right? But then there are lessons that we can learn from there. Now, one of the things that's important, which is where I want to talk about the role that the family played, sticking together through thick and thin. This is where I want to be talking about, because this whole story, its importance lies there more than anything, more than the illness and everything like that. And so it says there are lessons that we can learn from how things, in fact, in the Jewish tradition, trees are important in the desert because they show shade. If you see a tree, you think there's a water around there. If you see a tree, you think there's a shade. There's fruit and all of those kinds of stuff. And I've had experience of trees in my life in this whole experience. And so, to cut the long story short, what then happened was that the doctor, by the time he walked into, before I got home, he walked in, he was going with a lady. And he introduced me to that lady and said to me, listen, this is Dr. So-and-so. This is your oncologist. Please talk to her now. And as I was busy trying to absorb this. This doctor was asking for my medical aid and this and this and this. And in the middle of that conversation, I thought, man, what is going on? And I said to him, please just give me a chance. I just want to go home. And I went home. But then I consulted a number of people, medical doctors, alternative health, Adventists, professionals, and I spoke to a lot of people. And I went to a place called Be Free, which is at Helderberg College. Be Free is an Adventist health facility. They now have a place also in Butterworth, Bethel. So what they do there, they detox your body and they work with your body in order for your body to be strengthened to fight the disease. They believe that we all have the wherewithal to fight any disease. And so that's what they prepare the body to do. By the time I went back to the doctors to do a second opinion at another hospital, the doctor who was looking at me was angry when he looked at my script from the previous thing. And he said to me, who is the doctor who, I want to phone him now, who was treating you? Why is it that he allowed you to wait for about 4 months from the last diagnosis to now to you coming back here for the second opinion? Why? And I said to him, please, doc, don't worry. I'm the one who said, I want to do this. When they finally tested me, they realized that my cancer cells had dramatically dropped just by changing lifestyle. Dramatically dropped. So much so that they felt that there was a little bit that still needed to be cut. But they said, whatever you have been doing, keep doing it. But we'd advise you to go to UCT Academic Hospital, UCT Private Hospital, because they are specialists in the whole of Africa for this kind of colorectal cancer that you have. So go there, speak to the doctors there, Professor Goldberg, and this and this and this and this. And they will find a way. So I went there. I had to do a bit of an operation, which is why you're seeing me there in hospital. And I'm saying it's a bit of an operation, but it was not a bit. It was really a traumatic experience. And I remember one day, you remind me no more about this story, but I remember one day, my boy, he was still small, so they would come almost every day to come and see me in hospital. I remember one day, we were walking, and he just couldn't continue walking, and I couldn't continue walking. We started crying. And he didn't understand, why do I remain at hospital? And by the time they picked up and realized that he was not there, they came back and saw us huddled together in the hallway of hospital. It just shook the whole family in ways that I would not have understood. And there was no way, no matter how specialized the hospitals were, that one could have gone through that desert without some of the people that have gone through this journey with. And so, one of the trees that I read about when I was reading about that desert is called acacia tree. In Xhosa we call it umgampunzi. That tree, read about it when you have a time. That tree, it grows on the river beds. And when there's no water, it can be dormant for even up to years. But it grows again. I had my acacia tree in my wife. I had my acacia tree in her. You know this tree, the acacia, if you cut it, oozes out of it a juice like something. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's Xhosa inhlama. You don't get inhlama. What is it? Sap. Yeah. It's a sap-like thing that congeals that congeals as it gets out of there. So that, when it is cut, so that what they used to do, the Bedouins, they would take it and give it to their horses to treat their stomachs and the children. And they would use it like that. But if you take that same and put it under the ground, it turned into charcoal. So even in its death, it still is helpful. In its woundedness, it still is helpful. It's wounded, but it helps other people and animals. And so she was wounded, as much as I was wounded. But I remember this day speech. I would never forget that day. You know, I would have questions and questions. Why me? My family is young. All the questions that you probably all think about. I remember this one day. They went to a Pathfinder thing in Gunzwen. So I was left all alone. I took my Bible. And I was in the bath. You know when you get into a bath and you pour hot water and you stay there, it gets cold, and then you pin. I don't know how long I must have stayed in that bathroom. And I had my Bible, exactly this Bible. I have this Bible. This one here. It has the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy. So I thought about everyone I could think about, every Bible character that had trouble. I thought about Job. I thought about how Adam could have felt after the boy killed his. And I thought about, I took each character, each and every one of those characters right into the New Testament. I had all the time in the world. The Bible told me, God said to me, okay, you've looked at all these people. You've looked at all these people. What I want you now to do is to look at yourself. And ask yourself a question, where did God come through for you? And I thought, I racked my brain. And I remembered that after passing my grade 12, we call it matric standard 10 then. I hope it's politically correct to call it matric. Anyway, after passing, I passed it relatively okay. But I went to my father, and my father said to me, listen, boy, andinamali yokusesikolweni. I was so frustrated. I remember the last Sunday before the registration the following day. There was absolutely no hope. No hope that I was going to go to school. In fact, there was no hope that I was also even going to work. There was no hope. And God brought this memory into my mind because he wanted to share with me something. But on that day, late in the afternoon on that Sunday, there was a neighbor who nowhere to noche. Who nowhere to came. She was public or papazela. He's up. Why are you sleeping in? So she had heard, Ogoti, we're looking for money. My father had gone to this and that, but there was no. So, what you come listen, take this card. I'm just going to whisper this. Please don't tell anyone. Up until that time, I had never held a bank card in my hand. Unlike our kids today, they have. So she sent me with her pin to a Greenacres speech. What to go to F&B and take, I think it must have been $460 or something for registration there. Take that money and come back. I remember when I was there, my hand was shaking. And God reminded me of this experience. He took me to that moment when I was standing there in front of that ATM. And he said to me, listen, your father and your mother couldn't look after you. I could look after you. And so you worried about your children. You worried about your young wife. You worried about your wife. I looked after you. When your mother and your father, no one in your family could do anything about your situation. I tell you something, After that thing came, I came out of the bath with a renewed strength. When they came back with the children, at the earliest moment, I said to her, listen, can we talk? I said to her, listen, from now on, going forward, I'm going to fight this cancer. But if I have to die, it's okay. Because I've seen what God is going to do in my absence. Do you hear what I'm saying? And so we agreed that we're going to do everything. And so this other day, I had achieved another one of my down moments. And I was not going to go to work that day. It's another day, it's not the same day. So, I was not going to go to work that day. And I realized, and they will come back early. I don't want anyone. I don't want to talk. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to hear anyone running around. I just want to be by myself. But I knew that if I was here at home, it's not going to happen. Once we to 1, 2, onwards. So I phoned up Usis Wendy Msusen. Some of you might know her. She does not stay far from where we're staying. And I said to her, listen, can I come to your house, Sis Wendy? I knew there was no one there. And I went there. I was reading a book by, what's the name of this guy? But this book is about where God is, Philippians. Where is God? Okay, where is God when there's pain or something like that? Okay, I was reading that book. And I could just, it was hard on that day. It was really, really hard. I'm illustrating the point of sticking together when it is tough. I was not eating. I was not interested in seeing anyone. And I took a message and I sent a message to a friend of mine, Ulungelo Solombel. He is now at Sentin SDH. And I sent him a message. I said, Jambas, please, when you get home tonight, gather your family and come home so that you can pray for us. I didn't have the power to pray. You see, there will become moments when you don't have the power to pray. You need acacia trees. You need acacia trees that are going to pray for you. And Jambas, as I was speaking to him, and he said immediately, he was still in Cape Town then, he said to you, Katyen, I'm praying for you right now. And I started to sit still, and he prayed. As I was getting out of that prayer, still feeling down and heavy and so on, and I heard that there was a car parking in the parking lot. Oh, I thought, man, who must be that now? I don't want to be seen crying. I don't want to be seen. And go by. There's a Mamekai. It's her. And started knocking. I didn't want to open the door. But look, what can you do when the boss knocks? And she came in with this food, like vegan food or something that she had bought from somewhere, all of that kind of stuff. And I was not in the mood to eat. But what then happened on that day, I think for the first time that she did that, she put away this stuff. She must have seen that I was struggling. She put away all of that, put her hands on my head, and started praying for me. Friends, I don't know if you've never been in that situation, but that lifted me up, and it reminded me of that book. I think it's Isaiah chapter 41. They that wait upon the Lord shall mount like as with wings like what? Like eagles. They shall run and not get weary. Man, after that, I'm telling you, after standing from that, I gobbled up all the food. I ate. It was an amazing experience. We were going through this. Remember what they told me at the Be Free even before going to hospital, was that we now had to change everything at home. We had to juice. We had to buy new things. There were foods that I had never knew about before. And I realized that these foods, but I didn't realize. Things like celery and all of those things. I thought, what is celery? I had no idea about those things, But we had to eat those things now, juice them, make them like this. And it was a family enterprise. You see, friends, I learned something there. That we need to invest in our family relationships before we get into trouble. Because when your account is depleted, when you cannot give anymore, you rely on what they have in their account. And it means that, and I told myself that what I would have to do from now on is to try by all means to invest more in this family account. Because I knew I'm not perfect. It doesn't come naturally to me to be considerate and spend time and so on. I'm a typical person who but realize then that no. You need to invest in your family. Because the only way that we can stick together through thick and thin is when the people who have the strength remember good memories about this family. And where they feel motivated and empowered. And I'm not saying I did a great investment. I think they had an overflow of grace over me. Because that's what I experienced there. And I'm saying, through this experience, I wanted just to read to you some of the things that the acacia tree does. But there were 3 trees I was going to talk about. In fact, this is what I nearly changed my sermon after that music to talk about this. But the difference I was just going to be preaching then, but I'm presenting it now. So, I think I made some notes there, man, on the acacia tree, because I think it's important. There is my acacia tree, and I've chosen that picture because of the context that we took it. Ladies change hairstyles, all the time. It's like this, sometimes it's like that. So it's change hairstyle. But there, we were at a place there in Plettenberg Bay. And I've chosen these pictures because of that experience. It was the first time, after having gone through 3 types of operations, that we went away together as family. In fact, we went there together with the Solombelas, in Koskaska Solombela, it's on the left, and the Momvus, or Ahosi and others. We went there, all of us with our children. You remember when I was sick, one of the things that my daughter, I was saying, I used to say, I remember one time driving here to school when I was going through the illness. A song by Sonwabo was playing. A song that said, it's, in fact, there was another song that was playing that says, one day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Show me today. Teach me to the way one day. And that song was my motto. I'll take one day at a time. But there was a song that day that was sung by Usonwabo. Tears are the language God understands. And as we were driving to school, just at the right corner, I now had held enough emotion because I was feeling that because I'm going to cry because of this song. Tears are the language God understands. So before I turned the last corner, I burst. And my daughter says, and we stopped. And then her tears joined my tears. And in that moment, we were one. Like nothing I'd experienced before. And I took her to school, and I must have sat there in that school thing for an hour. There she is. You can't see. So, when you're in pain, the people closest to you are the people that can add value to you. It's family life today. We need to prioritize our families more than we prioritize our friends and workplace people. Because each and every one of us here is going to go through, an illness, yes. A car accident, yes. A business problem, yes. There's going to be problems where at church, there's issues where you need people around you. The first people that we need to strengthen our relationship with are the people closest to us, because they become our day-to-day reminders of God's love. And so we went out there to Plettenberg Bay. When I was talking about my daughter, she said to me, Dada, when are we ever going to swim together again? Remember, I had Twendoland, it was a stormer bag. Hey, I had a stormer bag at some point. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't swim. And I used to make it a point to go to, I spent time at the pool with the children and teach them to swim. And so I would throw them up when I was still well. I would throw them up. So one of the things that they really enjoy with me was that. And so when it didn't happen, they would ask me, Tata Caesar, when are we ever going to swim? And so this trip was one trip where we did that again together. And this next picture, I hope you, sorry. I'll come back to this thing. Hey, please forgive me. I'm just an evangelist. I'm not a presenter. So these educated things, they just, you see that picture over there. That picture over there. It was, yes, Nanku again. Yes. That picture over there is a highlight of my life. It's a highlight of my life because we're out there, fulfillment of dreams, answers to prayers, a light at the end of a dark tunnel. It was lit when we were up there. It was a time to reflect and look back and see, man, if God can be with me through that. You see, for me, the most important part was that part where I'd come to a point where God had said to me, listen, I will look after your people even if you're not there. You do not have the strength, not the power. Don't take yourself too seriously. Realize that you can only do so much. But here's the message. This part that says you can only do so much, it means that while you can, do so much. Do so much to look after your health, after my health. Do so much to invest in whoever is important in your life. Relationships. I don't know how many phone calls I received. And I remember Speech and I grew together. We went to school together and so on, and other guys. And so those years we would meet yearly. All the guys that we went to church with. We grew in the same church and all of that. No Said and others. We would meet and we would, we've been to many places, man. Shumba Lodge, Cape Town, wherever we would meet there. It's just guys. And we'd reminisce about how God has been good to us. Some of us, it's been illnesses, it's been family problems, it's been business problems, but we share time together and we talk. And when I shared this story with them, those that were there, you know, the guy said to me, man, one thing that I'm taking from your story is that life is short. Life is short. And then we have to make the most out of it. And so if you running a business, do the best out of it. Whatever it is that you're doing, but whatever it is that you're doing must not supersede our responsibilities to the people that love us most in the family. And so the story is God's faithfulness in the deserts of life. That's the story. He says, in the desert, he found me. In the desert, he hugged me and treated me as an apple of his eye. And so whatever desert you are facing, it could be a desert of relationship between parents and yourself. It could be, a desert of a broken relationship between your friend and yourself, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, or whatever it is, whatever trouble that we are going through, God is faithful to take us through. And he says somewhere, though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my love for you shall never be removed, says the Lord who has care over you. I think it's Psalms chapter 56, that one. And that's what I want to say today. God is faithful. Now, God is faithful even if I would have died. He would have still been faithful. But you see, he knows us. He knows everything. He knows when our time is over to have done something. But I feel that he has given me yet another mile to run. And I told him that, God, as long as I live, I will try my best to stand for you, to speak for you. And perhaps maybe that's why he lifted me up, so that I can come to you and share this story with you today. Because it is only as we hear other people's walk with God, or God's walk with them, that we get strengthened in our own weaknesses. There are people that I've listened to whose stories are much harder than mine. They've encouraged me. I remember reading a book when I was ill about someone who had gone through difficulties. And he wrote a book afterwards that says, I remain standing. And it's not because of him. So let me pause. Okay. Let me just give you a chance to maybe engage or ask whatever questions. I don't want to bore you with a long speech. Anyone who wants to say something at this point before Sivali Sabbath? Yes, sir. Oh, Funayon. Let me come back to the acacia tree. I like that. In fact, oh man, there are 3 trees I want to talk to you about. In fact, if I was preaching, I was going to talk about those 3 trees. All right. It's acacia tree. It's another one called an ara tree. And there's one other, but let's talk about acacia tree. The acacia tree grows along the edges of the wadi. Like barren riverbeds. If conditions are too dry, it becomes dormant and comes alive when the flood passes by. Now, later it produces small brown fruit pods containing seeds, and these seeds are used for feeding animals, such as camels and so on. You see? Now, sorry. It was a bit long. The branches have leaves that provide shade. All right? So here's the point I'm trying to make. Out of one person, out of one acacia tree, God has planted more things, more functionalities. This tree, you can get something and eat when you're hungry. But when you're hot, you can get a shade from its branches. So God has put something into all of us to be acacia trees for some people. In fact, I've got a motto. It's a French motto. I don't know how I can say it, but it says, plus est en vous. It means there's more in you than you think. I read, when I was still a boy, I read a book about a school where Prince Charles went to school. That motto was the motto of that school. I remember writing the name without knowing the meaning, and I investigated later. Here is the story. There is more in you than you think. There is more than in that acacia than we think. The branches are used for fire. It has an oily kind of branch that burns so bright. Right? If the tree is wounded, it produces this black substance that is boiled and used for stomach troubles. Whatever comes from this is useful even when it is wounded. So when you are wounded, when someone when someone has angered you, is there something good that comes out of it? Or do you spew back horrible words? When you and I are wounded by life, what comes out of us? Acacia tree. Something good comes out of it when even it is in pain. Because acacias grow slowly, they provide wood that is hard and dense. All right? The wood contains substances that make the tree resistant to decay and unattractive to insects. So, are you attractive to moral insects? Are you attractive to decay? Is everything around you and me just decaying? If I speak to this person, this person is going to hurt me. Are you a decaying species? Or is someone coming out to life? When someone speaks to you, they get life out of you as an acacia tree. It's used for cabinet making. Let me tell you something. When God wanted to, in Exodus 25, verse 8, when he says, make me a sanctuary. When he wanted to make a sanctuary, something that was going to hold his presence on earth, he chose an acacia tree. And he said to Moses, go and find an acacia tree so that it can hold my presence. Are you able to hold God's presence in your life? Can the Shekinah glory of God come out of you? Huh? When God is looking at trees to contain his presence, contain him, can he say, man, let me go to that brother, to that sister? Like an acacia tree. It's used to tanning leather. It produces fibers for making robes and sap that is used for medicine and in food products. When it dies, listen to this, its roots, its branches and trunk make very excellent charcoal and long burning logs for cooking fires. And this tree is useful even when it's dead. So, when I am dead, what are the closest people to me going to say? What are the people in church going to feel like? And I'm not talking about crying. No, I'm just talking about a meaningful sense of contribution. Because this tree is like that. I won't get into all the other issues, my friend, but that's all I wanted to share about acacia tree. Maybe another time I'll talk about these other two. Because the Arad tree, I was going to show you a picture of it. If you are walking in the desert, you see it. It's called the devil's apple. You see it there. When you look at it, it looks so juicy. It looks so juicy and beautiful. Color is beautiful. And when you are thirsty in the desert and you see, oh man, here's a tree with this Arad tree, you run there, thinking that there's something, and you take it. And when you open it, it pops. and there's nothing inside except poisonous minxeba. I don't know what you call that. It's Sabbath. My English just runs away on Sabbath. There's those network of, inside there, but it pops. It's an ara tree. It's a deception, deceptive. They are deceptive people. When you look at them from a distance, you can be sure. Ladies, when you look at them, you can be guaranteed that this guy, get close, pop them open, poison comes out. If we had time, we could look into that, but we won't have the time. Okay. Now, I don't know if there's any other person who wants to make a comment. We were just sharing the story of sticking together through thick and thin. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for opening your chapter of life to show us what family life is about. And your own walk with God. I was much impressed when you were introduced during divine service. There's the man, that's the wife, these are the children. I'm one of those who believe a man cannot preach about family if the wife is not present. Because that's how much I respect family. Don't come and talk about shorty and whatever. This is your own chapter of life, telling us what the Lord has done for you. And I think this is what almost all of us are going through. And these are pages we are going to face. Maybe others have been there. Others are yet to come. But this example of yours shows us that when we are down there, the people that are to hold us up are our family. And ma'am, thanks for being the family he's talking about. And I think keep it up wherever you go. Go with ma'am. And I think it empowers those of us who are young in marriage to know what family life is about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. There's a hand over there.
Brother Kulati, thank you so much. My wife is already saying I was outside, and now I'm asking. It's not the issues of asking. You know, the thing is that you are sharing something very lovely as we start the year. Experiences that as individuals that we go through, that God wants to teach you one or two things in life on how much He matters in your personal life. I think this is a good platform for the church, as well as the church, the Calvin Church, that as we start this year, we can embrace the goodness of the Lord. Because this is not just a journey. This is what we are called to be thankful. Because this is not through our power, nor our knowledge. And when God does wonders, we keep quiet about these things. Where we have to, as a church, to share and to enlighten the church that God works behind scenes. Because if we could pass the mic through each and individual who's seated here, there's a lot of things that would shock us that God has done in silence. And as a church, it is upon us to have this task of reviving each other, to say, indeed, there is a God in heaven. If we see people like you walking, getting healed, these things are not somewhere in the air. They are scripted in the Bible. it says if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you would say, mountain, move to the sea. And even greater things you will do. That's what Jesus, before he left. And these are things that are supposed to be driving the church to the kind of direction of saying, indeed, there is a God who lives within us.
Yes, sir.
And we need to display those things, because some people don't understand. They come to church hoping to get something, a revealment or a miracle to say, indeed, there is a God. And it's only testimonies like these that indeed emphasizes that there's a living God within us. And such testimonies are able to say, even from the other person, if he could go through this, I know the Lord will take me through this one too. And that is the kind of appeal, I would love that the church could focus on directions like these ones. And we could see that God would minister himself in this church in a very tremendous way. And I thank you for, for this Family Life Day, because this is a proper platform. If we want to see God, let's put him to test. God is going to do wonders in our lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that comment over there. Okay. All right. So as Asia Paya, let me just say, just put an emphasis that let's take our health message seriously. But sometimes I get concerned in Adventist circles when the health message is ridiculed. It's better if I'm failing to just say I'm failing, but not to ridicule the message. Yeah. Play with it, just say things, just struggle along. Carry on doing what you're doing, but don't pull the message down. Because even the world now is picking up on the message that we've always had as a church. Yeah. The world, people are making billions of dollars out of what is written in our own books. And so if we're struggling with the healthy lifestyle and things like that, even after going through this stuff, let's not ridicule. And I'm not talking about meat here, anything. I'm just talking about the health message. Okay.
I want to ask, how honest were you to your kids about the situation that you were going through?
Hey, that one, I can't remember exactly what. They were quite young. But we told them enough for them to know that Daddy is ill. We had to sit down and talk to them about the fact that I'm going to go to hospital, do the operation. For example, take them through all of the changes that were happening. I'd remember that when I was at school, my wife tried to make things as normal as possible. For example, when they were writing, when they were doing their homeworks, she would put them on the phone and I would speak to them about their homework. All right? So as much as I was at hospital, I was playing a role as much as possible, at home. And sometime, we'd put the phone and we'll talk and sing and pray, do whatever the case may be. We told them as honestly as a young child could understand. I think Ulikwez was about, 8? Yeah, Ulikwez was 8 then. Ulelehle must have been about 4, 5. So they were little young. But I had to I told them that there's going to be an operation going on. I'm going to spend time in hospital. Let me say this, talking about hospital, by the way, and the health message. I was supposed to stay in hospital for about 14 days after the major operation. And so I remember sitting there waiting for the doctor to come on the Sabbath morning, on the 7th day, 7 days. So it ended on Sabbath. And then I was still looking forward to another week. And the doctor came in on the Sabbath morning and said to me, Mr. Kulati, phone your family, you're going home today. You know what had caused that? It's because of the lifestyle changes. The rate of healing was speeded up. The immune system was so strong that even the operation after it was done healed earlier. And they sent me home 7 days before the actual day I'm supposed to go home. All right, and I see there's the hand there, and then come to you.
Thank you very much. This story becomes new, every time I, hear you speak about it.
Yes, wish.
I'm one of the guys who knew when that happened. But I think you were a bit polite when you themed, your presentation
Okay.
to say God's faithfulness. I see your faithfulness in God in the desert of life. I see your wife's faithfulness to God in the desert of life. What it is, you guys were in the desert. You were when you're seated there, lying there in the hospital bed, you were in the desert because you were not with your family. And they were not with you. And therefore, I want to say, perhaps you are polite, you don't want to seem like you have phonella and all that. Because it takes faith to get any desired result in life. Faith is the principal instrument you use to achieve anything. So I see you and your family having been faithful to God, believing God for healing. You were not just saying he's the balm in Gilead. It was practical in your life to say, God. It touched me when you said, my wife laid hands on me. Because this is stuff that we don't do. And that's powerful.
Yes, sir.
That's healing. When your woman lays hands on you, man, you can do anything.
Yes, sir.
You can do, I'm telling you.
Hallelujah.
Try it at home.
I can see she's doing it right now. Some hands can be romantic as well, I see there.
Yeah. So more than anything, more than I see you and your family as being fighters, having fought the battle and won. Remember, you're not only fighting to get you guys healed. You are fighting with the devil himself. Because it is the devil who brought that challenge in your life. And that challenge in your life actually proved the caliber of the family that you are.
Thank you.
In God. We look down at, the Sabbath school programs and, listening to preachers and listening to music. You look down on those things. But they come in handy.
Yes.
When it's time to really test your faith. So what I see is faith at play here. So I want to encourage everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Any challenge you might have. If I could be given a chance, I would share, all of us actually, we could share stories. And fundamentally, everything we would share and we come out of it is as a result of faith.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Manika Wenasis.
Okay. Mine is not that. Having had the knowledge from people, how did you deal with the frequency of meals in the hospital and what they were serving? Because I've seen they do serve sweets to cancer patients and they serve meat to cancer patients.
Remind me of Pastor Bandla. Remind me, I'll just take a detour and come back to your question. Pastor Bandla, we went to see him in PE when he was in his deathbed. And the nurses had come before we came in. And then they had given him food. Pastor Bandla was sick. And so they gave him food. This was the third time apparently. And the third time he said, Ntanam, if mama, if it has a mother, I don't want to eat it. Because they kept giving her some things, and said, if it has a mother, I don't eat it. All right. But in our case, can you remember anything about that?
Okay. Molweni Bandla. I think when you were at the hospital, remember you had to change your diet to processed things, but because because of the stoma, he needed to eat soft meals because of the stoma, and then we tried to compensate with juice and the smoothies, but it needed to be very soft because otherwise if it had particles it will block the stoma.
All right. I also, they would bring food and fruit and so on. So I ate some of the food, even though, in whatever hospital food that they gave. But I told them. But I was not there long enough for the food to pick up. But, in hospitals, they don't, even nurses, they don't know about this thing. So you just roll with the punches. And I'm just here for a while. When I'm out of here, I'll go and back to my healthy lifestyle. I have only 5 minutes to wrap up.
I'm appreciating a few things about the couple here. Did you notice that she asked the wife, do you remember? It tells me they do things together. And I think that's the lesson I'm picking up here. For your wife to lay her hands to pray for you, it means you were praying before. Some of us will not make it and invite our wives to pray for us because it will be the first time. And I think that's the second lesson learned here. And the other part that I'm learning here, Booth's speech spoke about it where he said, you were faithful to God, hence you have whatever, polite about the theme. In other words, the faithfulness is also, the theme itself is also remaining faithful, where you deny that you were faithful to God. In other words, you are not taking credit for yourself. And I think these are lessons we all need to learn from what has happened here. The reality is, you mentioned something like, there are certain things that you need to do before the dangerous days come. Desert. In other words, if you wait until you are in the desert, certain things don't add up. I've seen where families are not transparent in their finances. And therefore, it makes it impossible when things are tough to go through the tough times. It's a lot of other things. Most of the challenges that we face in life, we could have been holding hands as a family to go through. But because we've not been practicing sitting to have a conversation, showing our finances. In other words, there are men, some of our men here, when we are broke, we cannot even say it because it will be the first time our wives know our financial status. As a result, we get stressed up, we get depressed, others will even commit suicide because our family do not know what our finances are. Some of us are running businesses. Our family do not know what we do. I'm in accounting as a profession, and one of the sad things that I've seen, people accumulate so much wealth, businesses, but when they die, everything goes down because the family, the wife, the children do not have an idea what they do. For the first time, they will know their office or the type of business they run. And I have come to a conclusion that all successful businesses are successful because there's a good family. You can go and research about it. There's no single business that have successfully climbed up there without a strong family. I promise you, the stresses of business, you cannot cope alone. If you are married and your wife does not know what you go through in business, that business will not survive. Because, yeah.
they're pushing me here. All right, but thank you for that. I think it's very important. It reminded me of something else that I needed just to say. That if we can just take the value of honesty and faithfulness, just generally, just live a faithful life, an honest integrity life, it distresses you. You don't get into a situation where, hey, we are doubter or you fist. No, just be a person of integrity. In fact, the word integrity, just Google it up. You will find that it goes back to what the high priest would wear. Remember that thing that the high priest would wear with 12 stones on one side? You can trace it from there. The second thing I want to say is that one element, one acacia tree that I can highlight is the support that we get from members of the church. We're living in a time when we are atomizing our lives. We are removing ourselves from church. Church as a family. And I'm not saying church must enter into our business. But there's an argument to be made for church as a family. Church relationships. When the church goes out standing there and chatting to people. How are you? It's important. Because when you are sick, those are the people that are going to phone you up, send you a text message, check on you. And that keeps you going when you're going through stuff. And I do want to say that church people are another element in what we're talking about. And unfortunately, we're coming to a situation now where we're individualizing, isolating, itemizing ourselves away from everything else. Such that even when we're struggling, the business is struggling, or the family, or the health, or whatever the case may be, there's no one to really talk to. And I'm saying this as the last point to make. And it all really goes back to what I said, which is about the goodness of God. God does not owe us any more years on this earth. He's given us enough to make our impact and go out if necessary. But whenever He keeps us longer, He wants us to achieve more of that purpose. And so we will talk about that some other time. But for now, I think it's enough for this program. I'll hear from you, ma'am, what else going forward. But it's been really a privilege and an honor for me to share our story with you today. Thank you.
Mamu Kulati now, Tato Kulati. I cannot thank you enough. May the Lord richly bless you and may He keep you. May your message, it is a very good message. It is an encouraging message. It is something that we need to be reminded of from time to time. And Ela Uputmandla as a kapambili, he will close for us. I think a business meeting yakubeka after this, right? Yes.
Thank you very much, Bulela, with a wonderful program. And again, umphathi beseshilo mangathathi indawo yakhe njengomgcini sihlalo. Mina nje ukuthi ngizela ukuthi ngizothandaza. Thereafter we'll go straight into the business meeting so that sizokwazi ukuthi sizoqeda masinyane sihambe semakhaya. Let's pray. Simangadolweni sakubonga uNkulunkulu ngethuba osiphiwa naNkulunkulu. Usuku uNkulunkulu olubeke ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi uNkulunkulu sidumise ubuhle bomndeni uNkulunkulu. Sibonga uNkulunkulu inceke zakho uNkulunkulu ezisibonisayo uNkulunkulu ukuthi kumnandi kangakanani ababili uNkulunkulu mabebonisana behleli njengomndeni uNkulunkulu. Sesicela ke uNkulunkulu ukuthi zonke izifundo ezothi basibekela zona masisithathele zona uNkulunkulu. Ukuze nathi uNkulunkulu sizokhula sibe njengasihlahla somtholo uNkulunkulu. Esithi zona uNkulunkulu noma sisekufeni baba noma sisekuguleni kwaso uNkulunkulu sikwazi ukuthi sincede abanye abantu. Siqongela ngisicela sibonga uJesu Kristu wafavuka kuzophakathi. Amen. Okay. We're just gonna congregate slightly up front here. Jay, please, can you call the other members so that we can. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sure. And feel it. Thank you. Thanks. Ma'am, thank you very much.